now we're recording. Great. Well, hello, everyone. I forgot to say happy fall last week. Kind of doesn't feel like fall because it's still warm, but technically it is autumn. I'm excited for the season to finally change with weather and all of that. So for those of you who have been with me, just a gentle reminder that anything we do today is totally optional. We're going to do a lot of hip openers. I love doing that because majority of us are sitting all day long and our hips are very closed off. So trying to open them up and get some space and flexibility in there. And along with our fall theme, fall is a season of new beginnings as well with any kind of season. So just maybe letting go of anything that you held on during the summer or even in the recent days and just letting go of that. So today we're going to start in a reclined bound angle pose or bound butterfly pose. We're going to put the soles of the feet together, and with the feet farther away from the body, the less intense you'll feel on the hips. So you might want to start off that way. And then the closer the feet are to the body, the more of a hip opening you'll feel. If you have pillows or blocks, you can always place them under your knees so that your hips don't have so much strain on them. So we'll just begin on our backs. Soles of the feet together. Hands can be on the belly or hands can be laying next to your side. If this doesn't feel good on the hips at all, you can always just have your legs out nice and straight. And then just closing the eyes. Taking a big breath in through the belly, in through the chest, in through the throat. And then exhale nice and slow, throat, chest, belly. Just settling in. Bringing awareness to the breath. Intentionally slowing and deepening each breath you take. You can let the body soften, let the mind quiet just a bit more. And then as you settle in, there's a quote that I saw just the other day, and I'm not sure who the author is, but it goes like this. Notice how the trees do not cling to their leaves. Fall is about releasing the old to make way for the new. So then as you're settling and softening in, if it resonates with you, you can set an intention for your practice. It could be a positive affirmation, or maybe it's releasing something that no longer serves or benefits you. Sticking with a theme, maybe it's something that we've been clinging to, but now with the season changing, just letting it fall, letting it release. Just notice the breath, letting it expand the rib cage and the belly. And then with every exhale, just letting the chest and the belly fall. When you're ready, slowly begin to take the knees towards midline. You can use your hands on the side of the legs, slowly coming towards midline. And then place the feet hip width apart. We're just going to slowly windshield wiper our knees back and forth, releasing any tension that might have built up in the hips. Still keeping with that nice, calm breath. And then when you're ready, go ahead and begin to hug in both knees into the chest. Begin to rock side to side, nice little massage on the low back. And then still hanging on to the right knee, we're going to slowly extend that left leg out straight onto the mat. And then see if you can gently pull your shin, pull the knee towards your chest a bit more. So stay here if this is enough. You can always grab on the back side or the thigh if it's too much to grab onto the shin. So again, staying here if this feels okay. If you have a little more room, see if you can tuck that knee in to the crease of your elbow and see if you can pull the hip open just an inch or two. If you have any sharp pain, it's just going back towards midline and just releasing out of whatever is causing any tension. Definitely don't want that in the body. I'm just imagining that breath slowing down towards the hips, gently opening up just a bit more. And then when you're ready, bringing the knee towards midline again, and then we'll gently release it down straight. And then grabbing in that left knee or left shin in towards the chest. Taking a breath or two here. And then if it feels good, hugging in that shin, bringing that knee towards the armpit just a bit more, a little deeper opening in that hip flexor. We'll stay in one more breath in and one more breath out. And then we'll take that right knee into the chest, grabbing onto both. Again, rocking a little side to side. And then grabbing onto the backs of the legs, we're just going to slowly, and a few times, rock and roll all the way to a seat. So no rush. This should be a nice little gentle massage on the spine until you make it all the way up to a seat. So feet are flat on the mat, hip width apart, and then hands are right behind your back. And again, we're just going to windshield wiper the knees back and forth just a couple of times. And then we'll walk the hands up, grab a hold of the shins again. The feet can come towards midline if that feels better for this. And we're just going to do a couple of seated cat-cows. So we'll inhale, pull the chest forward, gaze can look up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, begin to round the back, belly to spine, chin to chest. And just a few more times, inhale, pulling the heart through. And then exhale, doming the upper back. Last time, inhale for a cow pose. And then exhale to cat back. Inhale, lengthening up nice and tall. And then we're just going to gently swing the legs behind us, coming into our tabletop. Shoulders right over the wrists, hips right over the knees, fingertips are spread nice and wide, nice neutral spine. And then when you're ready, we're going to tuck the toes under, engage the core, and then sending the hips all the way up and back, downward facing dog. So keeping the knees bent at first, lengthening out the back. Head and neck are nice and soft, maybe swaying the head a little side to side. And then when you're ready, pedaling out the feet, just getting into the backs of the legs, into the back of the hamstrings and calves. This is actually really good for ankle and foot flexibility as well. Just nice, gentle movement, still trying to move that tailbone all the way up and back, still pulling the chest through. Now we'll come back to our downward facing dog. Maybe see if you can straighten out the legs just a bit more. And again, you can have a micro bend or even a generous bend in the knees if you need to. And on your next inhale, we'll lift up onto the toes. Exhale, let the heels drop down towards the mat. Twice more, inhale up. Exhale the heels down. And last time, inhale up. And exhale down. On your next breath in, we'll gaze towards the top of the mat, slight bend in the knees, and we'll begin to slowly stroll all the way to the top. And once you make your way there, begin to fold over the legs, maybe grabbing onto opposite elbows, swaying side to side. I'm just letting all that tension in the shoulders, upper back, neck, just releasing with gravity. And then we'll gently take the fingertips down back towards the mat. Keeping the head nice and heavy, we'll slowly roll up one vertebrae at a time, all the way to standing. No rush at all. Once you make your way up, begin to roll the shoulders down the spine. Inhale the arms all the way up. Gaze looks towards the thumbs. Exhale, begin to hinge at the hips, leading with the chest all the way down, forward fold. Next breath in, halfway lift. Hands can be on the shins or top of the thighs. Exhale, forward fold. Twice more. Inhale, halfway lift, nice flat back. And then exhale, forward fold. Last time, inhale, halfway lift, crown the head pointing towards the front of the room. And then exhale, take the hands down towards the mat, stepping back to plank pose. We'll just stay here for one breath. And then on the next breath out, we'll lower the knees, begin to bend the elbows, graze the rib cage all the way down to the belly, and taking the tops of the feet onto the mat. On your next breath in, we'll lift the chest up just an inch or two for baby cobra. Slightly engage the glutes, and then exhale all the way back down. Inhale, maybe a little higher this time, and then exhale down. Last time, inhale maybe to a full cobra, and then exhale down. You're going to tuck the toes under, knees up or down, engage the core, and we'll take it all the way up to plank pose, and then take the hips all the way up and back, downward facing dog, and then just pedaling out the feet again. Finding a bit of stillness in our downward facing dog, taking one breath in, one breath out. Inhale, gazing towards the top again, and begin to slowly stroll all the way to the top. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. You're going to slowly roll up one notch at a time again. Rooting the feet down into the ground, lift the upper body of the arms all the way up. Exhale, swan dive down with control. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, take the hands down, stepping back to plank pose. Again, we'll stay here for one breath in. And on the breath out, lower the knees down, and then graze the ribcage all the way down. This time, we're going to take our hands on the outside of the mat, fingertips, pressing into the ground, and we'll inhale the chest all the way up, and then exhale down. This time we'll inhale up. Exhale, take that right shoulder towards midline and just drop it down as far as it feels good. And then inhale the chest all the way up, and then exhale that left shoulder down towards midline. And then inhale up. Exhale, releasing back towards the ground. Hands come right underneath the shoulders, tucking the toes in. We'll lift to plank on an inhale, and then exhale the hips all the way up and back, downward facing dog. Full breath in, and full breath out. Inhale, gaze towards the top of the mat, and this time maybe take a nice big step all the way to the top. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. This time we're going to inhale, root to rise all the way to standing, lifting the arms, lifting the gaze. Exhale, hinge of the hips, swan dive down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, take the hands down to the floor, stepping back to plank pose. Stay for the breath in. On the breath out, lower down all the way or halfway, your choice. Inhale for cobra or upward facing dog. And then exhale, we'll all meet back into a downward facing. Inhale, gaze towards the top of the mat. And then exhale, taking a step all the way to the top. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, root to rise all the way to standing. Take the hands at prayer pose towards the top. Thumbs come to the third eye or to the forehead. And then hands come to heart center. If it feels good, maybe just close the eyes. Maybe rock a little forward and back on the toes and the heels. Just finding that center of gravity. Just feeling the earth, that connection. Rooting down, lifting up to the crown of the head. We'll take a big inhale through the nose, chest meets the thumbs. And then exhale out the mouth. Twice more. Inhale. And then exhale. Last time, inhale. And then sigh it out. On your next inhale, we'll lift the arms all the way up. Exhale, hinge at the hips, swan dive down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, take the hands down, stepping back to plank pose. So you can go straight into downward facing or take whatever flow you want to get to downward facing. And then once you make your way there, on your next inhale, we'll take the left toes all the way up, bend the knee, and then open up the hip, three-legged down dog. Rolling out the ankle, maybe circling open the hip a couple of times. And still pressing the chest towards that back leg. On your next inhale, straighten up that back leg, squaring off the hips. Exhale, knee comes to chest, and then foot comes in between the hands. Low lunge. You can always have blocks underneath your hands to support you, and we'll settle the hips just for a breath. When you're ready, slowly and carefully, we'll take that back knee down towards the ground and flatten that back foot. So stay here if this feels okay, or maybe take the hands up onto the knee. And instead of taking our hands up like sometimes we do, let's have our hands, if it feels okay, energetically reaching towards the ground. So focusing the breath on the hips, letting the hips come forward and down with every breath, even if it's just half a centimeter. And then rolling open the chest just a bit more, little back bend. When you're ready, we'll take the hands back down to the floor, down to the blocks, and begin to slowly shift the hips over that back knee. And then we're going to straighten out that left leg. You can have a little micro bend in the knee, and then flexing that foot, toes pointing up towards the ceiling. Inhale, lengthen up the spine. And then exhale, maybe folding just a little deeper. Again, if anything doesn't feel good or something's pulling, just backing off. So we'll stay here for 2 more rounds of breath. Just sending the breath into the back of the leg, open up a bit more. And then we're just going to roll through that low lunge back to the half split just a couple of times. So on your next inhale, we'll come all the way forward, low lunge. And then exhale back, half split. The last round, inhale, pulling the chest forward. And then exhale, going back, half split. This time we'll inhale up towards the front. Hands can stay on the blocks if you want. And then we'll tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and bend that back heel towards the mat. Engaging the core, we'll inhale, windmill the arms all the way up, warrior two. Just adjusting your stance if you need. You can go wider or you can even go shorter depending on how the hips are feeling today. Checking in with that front knee, letting it be stacked right on top of that ankle or in front. Arms are nice and long. Checking in with that breath again. And then on your next breath in, we'll straighten up that front knee, lift all the way up. Exhale down, warrior two. Twice more, inhale up. Exhale down. Last time, inhale up. And exhale down. On your next breath in, we're going to tip it back, reverse. And then straighten out that front leg, reverse triangle. Keep the legs where they are. We're going to inhale the arms and the body all the way up towards center. And then take that left hand, reach it forward, and take the hips towards the back. And see if you can drop that left hand down on the thigh, the calf, or even a block. And then open up that right arm, that top arm, all the way up for triangle pose. You can always put a micro bend in that front knee, never trying to lock it out. That doesn't feel good on the joints. And then if it feels good, you can take that right hand, place it to your low back, or even find that left hip crease. Rolling open the chest just a bit more. Staying here for 2 more rounds of breath. Calm breath in. Calm breath out. If you have your right hand on the hip crease or the low back, inhale it all the way up. And then exhale that top hand and let it come towards the floor, even onto a block, if that feels better. And then take that left hand onto the floor and block on the other side. We'll inhale, lengthen up the spine. And then exhale, coming down into pyramid pose. So you can play around with the stance again. Sometimes people like a wider stance in pyramid pose, and some people like to kick that back leg in to have a shorter stance. So just see what feels good to you, and each side's gonna feel a little different. Just squaring off the hips just a bit. Trying to straighten out that front leg, really getting into the back of the hamstring. Sometimes it feels good to even flex that front foot coming up onto the heel. You'll feel a nice stretch in the back leg, but again, if that's too much, just keeping that foot down. And if it feels good, taking the nose towards the shin, breathing into the back of the leg. And we'll stay here for 1 more breath in. 1 more breath out. And then we're just gonna take our hands onto our hips and then inhale all the way upright. And real simple, we're just gonna take that back leg and step all the way to the front of the mat. I'm gonna face you. So from here, we'll inhale the arms all the way up. Exhale, take the hands down to heart center. So we're gonna begin to rotate that right hip out. Actually, I think we did our left hip starting. So we're gonna rotate our left hip out, and that left heel is right on that right ankle. So this is a modified tree pose. If this is fine with you, just stay here. Maybe glide that foot up towards the calf. Again, if this is enough, just stay here. If you want that foot to come towards the inner thigh, see if you can pick up the ankle and the foot and then place it on the inner. As long as that foot doesn't go onto the knee, definitely don't want to press onto the joint. And then just lifting the crown of the head all the way to the sky, rooting that right foot down into the ground. And we'll just stay here for 2 rounds of breath. Calm breath in. Calm breath out. We'll slowly slide that foot all the way back down to meet the right. Inhale the arms all the way up. Exhale, hinge of the hips, swan dive down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, take the hands down, stepping back to plank pose, and then taking your flow. And then once you're in your downward facing dog, taking 1 breath in, 1 breath out. On your next breath in, take the right toes all the way up and back, bend the knee, open up the hip, and then rolling out the ankle, circling open the hip. When you're ready, we'll inhale, straighten up that right leg, squaring off the hip, exhale, knee to chest. Pull that right foot in between the hands, slow lunge. And again, if you have a pillow or blocks, you can place them underneath your hands to give you a little more support. And just let the hips settle for a breath. When you're ready, slowly and carefully lower the back knee down, flatten that back foot. Keep your hands on the block if that feels okay, or maybe walking the hands up towards that knee. And see if you can square your hips even more towards the front of the room. And that means your hips kind of back off a bit so your tailbone points down. It's totally fine. And then we'll take the fingertips, let it reach energetically towards the ground. And then we'll begin to slowly press the hips forward and down until you feel that nice stretch in the psoas. Inhale, maybe pull the chest up just a bit, a little back bend. And then exhale, we'll take the hands back down to the blocks or down to the floor. And we'll shift the hips over that back leg. And again, flexing that front foot, trying to straighten out that front leg as much as possible. Inhale, lengthen up the spine. Exhale, maybe folding just a little deeper. Again, bringing that awareness back to the breath. Slowly opening the back of the leg, back of the hamstring. And then on your next inhale, we'll come all the way forward, low lunge, pulling the heart through. And then exhale, coming back, half split. Last round, inhale forward. And then exhale back. This time we'll inhale forward, keeping the hands on the blocks or taking your hands down to the ground. We'll tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and then spin that back heel down towards the ground, engage the core. And then we'll just come all the way up, warrior two. So each side might feel a little different. Maybe the right hip doesn't feel as open as the left. Just finding your stance again, shortening it or elongating it a bit more. So shoulders are stacked right over the hips, and imagining that there's an invisible wall right behind that right thigh. You want to press that thigh up against the wall. So try not to get that knee going towards midline. That won't feel good on the joints over time, but really pushing and actively engaging that leg. And then on your next breath in, we'll straighten up that front leg, lift all the way up. Exhale, warrior two. Two more times. Inhale up. Exhale down. Last time. Inhale up. And then exhale down. On your next breath in, we'll tip it back and reverse. Straighten up that front leg. Inhale the upper body all the way up towards midline. And then reaching forward with those right fingertips, shifting the hips back. And see where that right hand falls. Maybe it's the thigh, the shin, or even down to the foot or floor. And still energetically reaching with that top hand all the way up towards the ceiling. If it feels good, taking that left hand to the low back or finding that right hip crease. One breath in. One breath out. Inhale that left arm all the way back up. Exhale, take that left hand down towards the floor, down towards the block, your choice. And then take that right hand to the floor and to the block on the other side as well. And then we'll inhale, begin to shift the hips, kind of squaring them off. Lengthen out the spine. Exhale, maybe the nose comes closer to the shin. And again, each side might feel a little different. Maybe you want to kick that back foot in a bit. Just finding that right stance. You're not pushing or forcing into any particular pose. Just being really kind and gentle with the body. If you feel that nice stretch, just stay there. You don't have to push into anything deeper. And again, we'll just stay here for one more breath in. One more breath out. When you're ready, we're going to carefully take the hands to the hips and then come all the way up. And then just stepping all the way to the front of the mat. We'll inhale the arms all the way up. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Okay, this time we'll rotate the right hip out, placing that heel onto the left ankle. Stay here, this is enough. Or maybe glide that foot up towards the calf. Or maybe grab a hold of that right ankle and then bringing that foot towards the inner thigh. So think about like a magnet to a refrigerator. They're both having equal forces. So think of that the same with your foot and thigh, rooting down through that left foot and then reaching up to the crown of the head. And if you fall out of it, no worries. Just going back into it. And if you're swaying a little side to side, that's totally okay, especially if you're on carpets not as stable as hardwood floors or tile. And then trees always sway side to side anyways. So we'll stay here for one more breath in and one more breath out. We'll slowly come all the way back down to the front of the mat. Toes spread nice and wide, still rooting down into the earth. Inhale the arms all the way up. Exhale, hinge at the hips, swan dive down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, take the hands down, stepping back to plank pose. So going straight into downward facing dog or taking your flow, your choice. Once you make it to your downward facing dog, we're going to inhale the left leg all the way up. And then this time, begin to take that left knee towards that left shoulder. And then place that left foot on the outside of the left hand, coming into lizard pose. So stay here, this is enough. If you want a deeper stretch, you can take your back knee down to the floor. Again, staying here, this is enough. Or maybe placing your forearms on a block or pillows, or even taking the forearms all the way down to the floor. Sometimes it feels good to roll on the outside of that foot, opening up the hip just a bit more. So just noticing your breath, see if it became a little faster during that flow, and it probably did, and that's okay. Begin to slow it down just a bit, coming into our more restorative poses, letting gravity do more of the work. And we'll stay here for one more breath in, one more breath out. When you're ready, coming back up onto your hands, tuck the back toes, lift the back heel, and then we're going to slowly heel toe our foot towards midline, and then just gently drop that knee down towards the floor, coming into pigeon pose. So that left knee is right in front of that left hip crease. And then just take a look back at that back leg. See if that leg, your ankle and your foot is right in line with that right hip crease. Sometimes I look back and I see my foot kind of off to the side and just adjusting it. So again, stay here, this is enough. If it feels good, maybe dropping the forearms down to a pillow, a block, maybe all the way down to the floor. If this is too much on the knee or hip or anything, you can always come into a seated or reclined figure four, just taking that ankle on top of that right thigh and bringing in the shin towards the chest as much as comfortable. You'll still get that same great stretch. Also, if you have sciatica, sometimes the stretch is really nice. Just releasing those deep tissue muscles. Just relaxing the hip down towards the floor. No need to grasp onto anything. So I encourage you to close your eyes, maybe even take your chin towards your chest wherever you are. Just visualizing the breath, visualizing it coming into the body. And then as you exhale, setting it down towards the hip to open up just a bit more. And if you feel your hip opening up a bit more and you have more space, you can even maybe drop down and place your forehead on the backs of your hands. The belly and chest meet the front of the leg. But you can always ease off of it if this is too much, always coming back onto the hands if you need to, even coming into child's pose if you had enough on this side. But whatever pose that you're in, just noticing the breath. Notice any little movements, any tension in the body that can be released through the breath. This is your time just to connect with yourself, see what's going on. And we'll just have one more calm breath in, and one calm breath out. When you're ready, we'll slowly come back onto the hands. And just tuck the toes under in that back foot. And slowly and carefully, coming all the way up to a downward facing dog. If it feels good, you can keep that left leg going all the way up, three-legged down dog, opening up the hip in a different direction. And then coming back down to that downward facing dog. And then whenever you're ready, we'll inhale that right leg up. And then the knee comes towards that right shoulder. Foot comes on the outside of that right hand, letting the hip settle. Lowering that back knee down to the floor, flattening the back foot. Staying here if this is enough. Maybe rolling onto the outside of that foot. Maybe dropping the forearms down to a pillow or block or floor. Just finding a little harmony and peace right now, whatever you got going on. The most important thing is just to be with your breath. And then when you're ready, we're going to slowly come back onto our hands. Tuck that back toe, lift the back knee, and then heel toe that right foot towards midline. And then carefully dropping down into our pigeon pose, right knee in line or right in front of that right hip. And then looking back, just checking in with that back leg. So just stay up here for a moment if you plan on going down to the forearms. Just let the hips settle a bit, maybe even sway a little side to side just a bit, micro movements. And then when you're ready, slowly coming down if that feels good. And if it doesn't, each side feels different. You can always come into that seated or reclined figure four. I think I've mentioned this before, but when we do these hip openers, one, it's a really great thing, especially if you're sitting at a desk all day, but also we keep our emotional junk, that I like to call it, in our hips. So anything that we hold on to, it's kind of stuck in our hips energetically. So as we breathe and send that breath to create new space, we begin to release anything that we're holding on to. So in the theme of fall, new seasons, and not clinging on to anything anymore, maybe taking this time to let go of anything that no longer serves or benefits you. Releasing that attachment. So backing off anytime that you need to, or maybe if there was more space created, placing the hands on top of each other, placing the forehead, the third eye, down to the hands. And then we'll just stay here for 2 more rounds of breath. You can always come out of it sooner if you need to. And when you're ready, we'll slowly begin to press ourselves all the way up. So in this time, we're just going to come to our right sit bone and then begin to carefully swing that left leg towards the front. So as a counter pose, I'll face you to do this. We're going to stack our knees on top of each other. So crossing the right leg underneath and then crossing that left knee right on top. So if this doesn't feel good, or if your knees aren't totally in line with each other, no worries. You can always have that left foot on the ground, the right and the left knee kind of propped up. But the point of this pose is to close off the hips since we opened them up so much. So we need to counter that just a bit. So stay here if this is enough. You can always grab onto the knees or even the feet and see if you can lean the chest a little forward, maybe even the chin hooks onto the knee. Taking one breath in, one breath out. And we'll come all the way back up nice and slow. And then unraveling out of that, placing the left knee, bending it onto the floor, and then crossing the right knee on top of the left. And again, even if the foot is on the floor and the knees kind of propped up, no worries. We'll take a hold of the knees or the feet. Inhale the chest. And then exhale, just leaning a little forward, finding your range of motion. Maybe the chin hooks onto the knee, maybe it doesn't. No worries. We'll stay here for one calm breath in, one calm breath out. Slowly coming all the way back. And then unraveling out of that. So with your knees bent, feet on the floor, we'll grab onto the backs of the legs and begin to just slowly make your way down towards the floor, onto your back. And then feet are hip width apart. And then we're just going to take our hips, lift them up just an inch, and then move them to an inch to the left. Take that left leg, cross it over the right. Maybe that left foot hooks behind the right ankle. And then taking the arms out into a T, We'll slowly lower the knees down towards the right. Eagle leg twist. Maybe closing the eyes again. Breathing through the twist. This natural and gentle detoxification of the body. So you can stay here longer if you want to. But if you're with me, we'll just gently take the knees all the way back up. Unravel the legs, feet right against, flush onto the mat. Taking the hips an inch up and then sitting them off to the right just a bit. Take that right leg, cross it over the left, maybe that right foot hooks behind the ankle. And then we'll slowly take the knees down towards the left. Gaze can look over towards the right fingertip. Notice if you're tensing anywhere, maybe tensing in one shoulder or both. Maybe you're gripping onto the floor just a bit with your fingertips. See if you can just wiggle them out just a bit. Telling the body it's okay to let go. The floor, the earth has you. No need to hold on to anything. And then when you're ready, we'll slowly take the knees all the way back, unraveling out of that. So we're going to come into Shavasana. If you need a low back reset, you can take the feet wider than hip width and then take the knees towards midline and just stay here. If you want to go into Shavasana right away, just lengthening out, straightening the legs, and letting the feet just open up naturally. And then rolling or tucking the shoulders into the mat just a bit more. And tucking the chin in towards the chest, lengthening out the back of the neck. Closing the eyes, letting them be nice and heavy. Then taking a big breath, maybe the biggest breath you've taken in all day. Pause at the top. And then exhale with control. Begin to relax the toes, the soles of the feet and the ankles. Relaxing the calves, the knees, and the tops of the thighs. Softening the hips and the pelvis. And then letting this peaceful sensation flow all the way up through the spine, into the belly, into the chest. Melting the shoulders down into the earth. Relaxing the arms all the way down to the fingertips, letting them naturally curl in. Releasing any tension you may have lingering in the jaw. And then softening that space between your brows. Letting your thoughts and mind become weightless as you sink and surrender to the earth. And then when you're ready, slowly coming back to the room, back to your body, back to your natural pace of breath. Wiggling out the fingertips and the toes, taking a nice big stretch like you're waking up in the morning. And if it feels good, rolling over to your favorite side into fetal pose. Taking one breath in, one breath out. At the bottom of the exhale, slowly begin to press yourself all the way up to a comfortable seat, keeping your eyes closed or heavy. And once you make your way there, taking your hands to heart center, and then bowing the chin in gratitude for taking this time for yourself and for your practice. I hope you all feel a little bit stronger, a little brighter, and a little more at peace. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today. Namaste. Well, thank you everyone so much for coming. I hope you have a beautiful, bright day and rest of your week, and I hope to see you next week. Bye, everyone.